Welcome back to our lecture series, Forest Resources. These are the natural resources, renewable natural resources. And under this lecture, we have already covered the different forest types. There are 6 different broad category of the forest classified by the champion set. And again, the 6 different broad category of the forest has been further divided into these 16 different categories. And we have just discussed in our earlier lecture about the 16 different categories of the forest. So now come back to the forest resources, and after discussing the forest types, we'll be discussing about the forest as resource. These forests around us, if we go to any areas, these forests around us are very important, and they contribute in the world biodiversity. If forests are there, means the home for the animals are there, then we have the rich biodiversity. So they are not only important for the animal but for us also, because we are taking oxygen from the forest, from the trees. So trees are very important, and they are bringing the clouds, bringing the rains, holding the soil. All these we'll be discussing in under forest resources. So India has about 21.7% forest cover of its total geographical area. However, it should be ideally 33% of its land, but we have just 21.71% forest cover. So, however, forest as a resource is used for various purposes. Our home. So we imagine anything in this room or in the classroom or around us, we'll find everything is coming from the forest. Whether it's a home, because everything to make a home, everything is coming from the forest. Furnitures, papers are made from wood that are extracted from the forest. We are using the logs, we are using the concretes, we are using whatever we are using, everything is coming from the forest. So we use many medicines, and that are based on forest produces. We depend on the oxygen that plant give out. And during COVID period, we realize how important is the oxygen, because unfortunately we lost many friends, and some of needed the oxygen, and during that period oxygen cylinder were very expensive. So now we realize that whatever we are getting free of cost from the environment is not as cheap as we think. We paid a huge sum of money during the COVID period to get just one cylinder of the oxygen, and that lasts for 8,000 8 hours. So the oxygen cylinders varies up to, I mean, during the crisis period, the price gone up to the 20,000, 30,000, like this, because it was not available in the market, and we all needed oxygen during the COVID. So we know the importance. Now we realize how important the plants are. Nothing is coming free. We have to pay for that. So we depend on the oxygen that plant gave out. The removal of carbon dioxide we breathe out from the air. So whatever oxygen we are taking, in return we are giving the carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide is being used, trapped by the trees, and in return they give us the oxygen. So it's a cycle which goes on. And the significance of the forest, we already know, but we just have to mention forest can provide prosperity of human being and to the nation. Can be classified as commercial use, ecological significance, aesthetic values, and life and economy of tribal people. Those tribal people are those people who are living inside the forest and totally dependent on the natural resources of the forest. So there are 4 ecological significance of the forest, that is the commercial values. Commercial means from which we can earn money. Ecological value means the which can provide us the water, air. These are the ecological significance. And the aesthetic means we go during the summer vacation. The North Indians go to the hilly in the mountain areas, because the areas are very rich in the forest, very rich. We are very green. When it's a scorching heat, we want to go to a place which is colder, and that place is colder because of the abundance of the trees. So aesthetic value is also important, which forest gave us, and the life and economy of the tribal people. So this is all four significance of the forest we'll be discussing under this lecture. So commercial values means the forest from which we earn. So about 1.5 billion people depend upon fuel wood as an energy source. The India is dominated with the villages, and most of the people are those inside the villages are living around the forest or along the river system, and they are taking everything from the forest, whether it's a fuel wood, fodder, timber, non-timber forest product, everything they are dependent on, because these are the easily accessible, and on top of that most of them do not have employment, no money, so they cannot afford to buy from the market. So these things are very expensive in the market, and they are getting free of cost, they think, but which is actually not free of cost, we have to pay. So, about 1.5 billion people depend upon the fuel wood as an energy source. We are getting our fuel from the forest. Even in the urban areas also, we are using the fuel wood. Most of the people are collecting the woods and using the fuel wood now. In the urbanized area, it is a fashion to have the barbecue, and that barbecue we use the wood and the coal. So forest products also used for consumptive purposes and sold as a source of income. They are not only using, the locals are not only using the wood for as a fuel wood, but also they are selling it out. It has been used for the consumptive purpose and sold as a source of income. So minor forest produce like fuel wood, fruit, gum, fiber, etc., which are controlled and sold in the local market for commercial purposes. Even the if you go to the areas like Himalayas, the small kids are selling the kafal seeds, the America fruits. They are from the forest, they are collecting whole day, they are collecting and they are selling out in the Nainital, Almora and all. So strawberries they are collecting from the forest and selling out. So like this we have many forest products like pine seeds, they are also very good, very nutritious, and the locals are selling it out. Not only the food product, but pine cones also being sold because it is as a showpiece in the houses. People are keeping the showpieces in the houses. So these are the minor forest produces, and are being sold in the market to have the more and more, to have the money. Fiber also, fruits, fuel woods. So major timber extraction, construction, major timber is extraction for the construction, industrial use, paper pulp, etc. Timber extraction is also done in India by the forest department. So forest department is also doing the timber extraction, but that is legal. When the trees are actually very old and they think it is going to fell down and we have to replace, or if there are fallen trees, they do the auction. So timber extraction is also done in India by the forest department. Medicinal plants, we are also using the medicinal plant from the forest. Nowadays medicinal plants also used to use as alternative medicine and have become general source of income. It is also potential source of new modern drugs. So during the COVID period, recently we have passed through the COVID period, and during the COVID period, what we are doing, we are taking lots of herbal medicines, lots of green teas, lots of like giloy. Cassia giloy is one of the important, which is immunity booster. So these everything we were taking from the forest. We are dependent on the natural resources. When I was working in the Almora, so locals used to tell me what plant we can uh, use for curing the small disease. Like I had the stomach ache, so they asked me to have the sulfur. Sulfur is the Virginia. That is the herb uh, growing on the rocks. So sulfur is is having the medicinal micromeria. Micromeria is the plant. If you rub on the skin, you can cure lots of skin disease, including the itching and all. So this kind of knowledge we get, and this kind of knowledge is also known as the indigenous knowledge system. So we have many Vad and Hakim giving the medicine. So medicinal plants also use as an alternative medicine and have become great source of income. It is also potential source for new modern drug. So ecological uses are forests are habitat to all wild animals and support million of species. We know this. They help in reducing global warming because they are giving oxygen and trapping the carbon dioxide, and the unwanted gases they are trapping, they are the carbon sink, and that is why they are helping in reducing the global warming caused by the greenhouse gases and produces oxygen upon photosynthesis. Forests can act as pollution purified by absorbing toxic gases. So they are not only giving us the non-timber forest product, they are not only giving us the timber, they are not only giving us the fruits, food and medicine, but also they can act as the pollution purifier by absorbing toxic gases. Forests not only help in soil conservation but also help to regulate the hydrological cycle. The roots of the big trees, they hold the soil, and that's how they control the soil erosion. um, so that is called soil conservation, and they are not only doing the soil conservation but also they are regulating the hydrological cycle. Apart from this, forests also work as watershed protection. Forest reduces the rate of surface runoff water and prevent floods and soil erosion. It produces prolonged gradual runoff and thus prevent effort of drought. Atmospheric regulation, forests absorb solar heating during uh, evapotranspiration and maintain carbon dioxide level for plant growth. It also maintains the local climatic condition, erosion control. It also maintains the local climatic condition. They also help in the erosion control. Forests hold the soil and prevent erosion directly from washing away by rain. So if there is no trees on the ground, the soil will run off with the water during the monsoon or during the rainfall. So the land banks, forests help in the maintenance of the soil nutrients and the structure. So these are the ecological value. We just discussed about the commercial value and the ecological value. Now the aesthetic value. Everybody wants to go to the Himalayas, hills during the summers, during the scorching heat, or wants to go to the South India, Goa, Karnataka during the winter. So we go these places because of the aesthetic values. It gives a very nice feeling and it looks good to our eyes, and we enjoy that aesthetic value, and that is called aesthetic value. So all over the world people appreciate the beauty and tranquility of the forest because forests have a greatest aesthetic value. Forests provide opportunity for recreation and ecosystem research. So when we are walking on the road during the high temperature, during the summer period, what we find, what our eyes search are big trees so that we can take rest under that tree. So this is the aesthetic value. This is what the trees provide. Not only they are providing us to sustain, to survive, but also they are providing us the aesthetic values. So ecological, commercial and aesthetic value we have just discussed. Now the last is the life and economy of local and tribal people. Tribal people, here the tribal people are those who are living inside the forest. So forests provide food, medicine and other products needed for tribal people and play a vital role in the life and economy of the tribal living in the forest. Local and tribal people use forest resources for different purposes like food, gathering plant, fishing, hunting from the forest. They collect fodder for their cattle, fuel wood and charcoal for cooking, heating and all, and poles means logs, timber logs for making the home, especially in rural and wilderness areas. We make the houses using the logs and the chopper. So timber, household article and construction, they also provide, forests also provide uh, fiber to the tribal people for weaving of baskets, ropes, nets, shrinks, etc. Sericulture, they are also into the sericulture for silk. And apiculture, bees for honey, forest bees also pollinate crops. And medicinal plants, traditionally use medicinal plant, which actually the tribal people uses. So this is what are these all four are the significance of the forest. So now come to the non-timber forest product. Why non-timber forest product is very important. If we go to the agriculture field, most of the agriculture appliances are made up of the forest product. Those products are the non-timber forest product. Or we are making the basket, that is the non-timber forest product. So non-timber forest products, which is also called as the NTFP, collections support about 60 million people globally. So, this many people are globally benefited because of the non-timber forest produce, and they are globally benefited for fuel wood, fodder, timber, and other cultural and traditional activities. In India, NTFP absorb 55% of the total employment in the forestry sector and add to 50% of the forest revenues and 70% of forest-based export income. So, thus providing household income for about one third of the total population. This is what the household in the rural areas are getting. A large number of indigenous communities of northeast India depend on forest resources and products for their livelihood, especially NTFP. NTFP harvest is often considered sustainable as it provides resources and livelihood to people living in the vicinity of the forest without tree felling for timber in many countries. So, India is dominated by the villages. So, what we do, the people living around the villages or living inside the villages are dependent on the forest resources. So, without felling the trees, they can collect the many things we have just discussed from the forest. So, in many countries, government and NGOs promote NTFP, non-timber forest products, for improvement of rural economy, community development, and forest conservation. Like in India, if we go to the eastern Uttar Pradesh or MP, Mahua and the Tendu leaf extraction is also known as the an NTFP. So, Tendu leaf extraction, Tendu leaf is made for making the local BDs. So, if you go to the Chanpabha Wildlife Sanctuary, extraction is going on, and that extraction forest department give the auction and they can extract. So, that comes under the NTFP. So, that is the during that extraction, not only the leaves are being people are being benefited by the leaves because they are being used for making the BDs, but those who are collecting are from the local community, and those who are making the BDs from Tendu leaves are also from the local community. So that's how they are generating the income by collecting the non-timber forest products, that is Tendu leaves and the Mahua in the central India. So we have lots of forest product by which by extraction locals get the employment who have no employment, totally dependent, and also making in the process they are also earning something. So, NTFP harvest has multiple ecological impacts. Large forests can potentially buffer the impact of exploitation caused by NTFP. So, sustainable exploitation is good. However, the smaller habitat fragments are often prone to degradation. So, NTFP collection is good in the larger forest areas where we have enough to sustain ourselves, sustain our life. We have enough, but collection the non-timber forest product from the small or fragmented forest can actually cause the harm and degradation to the forest. So, what are the major forest function? By now we understand what are the major forest function, for what forests are important. They are watershed protection, we already know. Atmospheric regulation, they absorb the light, they absorb the harmful gases to regulate the atmosphere, absorption of solar heating during evapotranspiration, maintaining carbon dioxide level for plant growth, maintaining the local climatic condition. These are the forest function, erosion control we just discussed, and land banks. So land use for forest resources, consumption of forest produced by local people who collect its subsistence, wood, fodder, fuel, poles, timber, fiber, silviculture for self. And also apart from that, apiculture, that is the bees for honey. Forest bees also pollinate crops. Honeybees are very important, and we are losing honeybees are vanishing from the earth because there are several studies which shows they are most affected by these mobile towers. So honeybees are very, very important because they help in the pollination, and that's how the plants grow, that's how the plant fertilize and they give the fruits. So honeybees are very, very important for ecology, to balance the ecology of the environment, to balance the ecosystem, because they are helping in the pollination. So bees, we are apiculture are the bees for honey, and these bees collect the pollens from different plants and make the honey. So forest bees also pollinate crops. So medicinal plants, traditional uses, medicine, investigating them as potential source of new modern drug. We are talking about the biodiversity conservation, and the biodiversity conservation, because one of the important thing is that each and every plant is having some medicinal values. We know some of them, but we do not know lots of plants. We are still exploring which plant is having what kind of quality. So this we have to find, and that is why we want that each and every plant, each and every animal should be preserved, should be protected, so that they are not only giving us the biological diversity, but also giving us they are the life support system for the human being, and we are totally dependent. Every plant is important. So traditionally used medicines, investigating them as potential source for new modern drug. Most of the things, like in Himalayas, people in 90s, people were cutting the Taxus baccata and for the fuel wood, but in 90s they realized, the government discovered that these Taxus baccata trees are having the Taxol, which is an important medicine in cancer curing medicine, which is an important component in the cancer curing medicine. So before 90s, we do not know that this is an important species, and locals were ex, uh, cutting these Taxus baccata trees for the fuel wood. So realizing that and discovering that these species is very, very important, because cancer curing drugs are coming from the Taxol, part of the cancer curing drug coming from the Taxus baccata, that is the Taxol. The government started doing the protection and conservation of the species. So this is how we are doing. The next is the market use, productive use of forest resources. What is the market use or the productive use of the forest resources? Products used for consumptive purpose are also sold as the source of income. We are getting income from the forest, this thing. However, illegal logging continue in many of the forests in India and the world, and that is the point of concern. Illegal cutting is actually degrading the forest, and we should do the cutting in the way so that it should be the sustainable utilization. The forest should be benefited. We both should be benefited. We as well as the consumer as well as the producer, both should be benefited by our own activities. So these are the illegal cutting of the trees. It's not only going on in India, but it's going on in the world to meet the growing demand of the population. Everyone need home. In every family, if there are five brothers, they when they grow up, they want their independent houses, and that's how the population is growing. The demand in the market is growing, but we have to be very, very careful while using these kind of things. So this is about the this is about the this lecture about the forest resources. what are the values. We discuss about the aesthetic values, ecological values, commercial values, and now in our next lecture we will be discussing further for the forest resources.